There's no standards and practices.
Yeah.
So what do you think human beings with our behavior is going to be doing? We're always looking to cut corners.
Yeah, take an edge.
Create I bet I can do this. Oh, I bet I could do this. I gotta make a move. Whatever drives us. A lot of it is false thoughts about money, but it is dangerous.
I've scaled and sold companies, built brands in cannabis and tech, and helped others do the same. If you're trying to grow something that matters, even when the odds are stacked against you, you're in the right place. Today's guest is Jimmy Young. He called the Boston Marathon in the 90s, interviewed legends like Pelé and Ted Williams, and now runs Pro Cannabis Media, a platform changing how we talk about weed. We get into how he started his podcast In the Weeds and why social media censorship is hurting the industry.
I don't like censorship, first of all.
Censorship.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the way that they've treated the cannabis industry is disgusting to me.
And what it takes to build a media company that earns trust in a space full of noise.
And when you start getting 100 views, 1,000 views, 1,000,000 views, don't change. Do the same show whether you have one person watching or listening as you would if there were 10 million.
This episode dives into tech, politics, and why storytelling is the most powerful tool we've got in cannabis.
My name is Jimmy Young, and I am a former Emmy Award-winning talk show host from New England who started a sports talk show for kids when he was on NECN back in the 90s. And that was really the climax of my career in broadcast, television, and sports. However, I'm a teacher and a coach in my soul.
That's fantastic. I love that.
And I say that because why else would you do 35 years of soccer coaching and teach courses on a regular basis at the adjunct level in the colleges and only make, a couple of $1,000?
Adjuncts don't make that much money.
No, I know. But actually, I am back in the classroom this fall.
Hey.
I've taught my Introduction to Sportscasters course at Curry College since 2009, and I love it. I love Curry because they're a learning challenged community, and it's even more of a challenge to teach those kids.
Let's get into you for a second. So, where did you get the idea that you could be on TV broadcasting and stuff like that? Is it something you were just born with when you were very young?
Well, I am grateful for my upbringing, first of all. My parents, Barbara and David Young, no longer with us, gave me a Super 8 camera for my bar mitzvah when I was 13 years old.
Fun.
Now, I had an older brother, 5 years older than me, who was my hero, my role model. To this day, he's perfect. I mean, he has planned his life since he was 16 years old. He married his college sweetheart. They had 2 perfect kids, Princeton and Tufts. They had found great mates. They each had 2 kids. They still have 2 kids. And now those 4 grandkids are within 10 minutes of his house in Chevy Chase, Maryland, and he's retired at age 72. I will never retire, first of all, because I don't believe in retirement. I'll be dead. I want to be dead. If I'm going to be retired, I want to be dead. Right. Just like Bear Bryant. You know who that is?
Bear Bryant sounds familiar.
Oh, God. Everything goes back to sports with me. Jacob's got a small. He knows who he is. He used to be the legendary coach at Alabama for years, and then he retired and died within a year.
I think that's what happens, though. I think that a lot of people say that.
A lot of people
retire. My dad's generation is something similar to that because although my father's a little bit older, he had mentioned he worked for the phone company for 35 years.
Yeah.
And he said, as these guys got these packages from, eventually became Verizon. It was originally like 9X or something like that. I think about was back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
These people would get the packages. They're like, all right, it's time to retire. They sign the package, they get their deal, and then within a couple of years, they're dead.
Yeah, but think about this. The average age when I was growing up of life was in the early 70s. My dad, with 22 years with bladder cancer, I might add, lasted till he was 90. He took chemotherapy at age 86 because it had left his bladder and got into other parts. So he decided, I'll have some chemo. It gives me something to do. That was his attitude. It just gives me something to do. And they used to go in. They used to clean. He never lost his bladder. They used to go in once a year and clean out all the polyps.
This is riveting.
Sorry. At least we're not talking about my body. We're talking about my dad's body first. You asked me why and how did I come out. I've always been able to talk. I've always been able to make people laugh. And I'm going back into my elementary school, junior high, high school.
Yeah.
I was president of Warren Junior High School in my 9th grade because I could orate, because I could talk.
Right. And you haven't given that up.
You've noticed that, huh? not only did I get it up, I had a pretty damn good career as a talk show host. And I still think I'm doing okay. But I mean,
did you go from right from college into broadcasting right away? You knew that from the beginning.
Well, no, I never thought I went to college, went to Tufts University. I'm part of a 3-generation Tufts family. My dad, my brother, my sister-in-law, me, and my niece. So there's 3 generations. And I went to Tufts thinking I'd be a teacher and a coach because those were the 2 most influential people in my life at that time. I was an athlete.
Right.
I played college soccer my sophomore year. I played varsity. And I had that experience. And then my junior year, I ripped up my ankle for the second time. So I was 20 when it happened the second time. The first time I was 15. That lost me the first year in high school playing varsity. And it cost me. And then a friend of mine walked up to me at Tufts. He was a founding member of Tufts University Television, TUTV, Tony Bennis. I'm going to give him the credit because he's an award-winning producer on his own. And he said, so you're not going to play? He said, no, that's a story. I'm doing a preview on the soccer team, and you getting hurt is a story. And I go, really? That's pretty pathetic, Tony. Okay. So I said, look, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this time. I only have 3 courses this semester. I planned it out that I would be focused on the soccer team. Well, he goes, well, what do you do now? I said, I have no idea. He goes, well, would you like to produce sports at Channel 4 in Boston? And I go, I don't know anything about television production. He goes, no, you know sports. I go, no sports. I love sports. I live sports, right? I said, you get college credit for watching sports on TV. And I went, oh my God, sign me up for that tomorrow, please. I love that idea. And that's how it all started. And then I met a guy named Jimmy Myers. Now, you may not know who Jimmy Myers is. First African-American sportscaster in Boston. To this day, he actually lives right over here now in Ashland. I say over here because you're in Metro West. And we're still friends. I mean, he and I are the same passion for life and sports and the profession. But beyond that, he's never had a drink. He's never smoked any weed. I mean, that takes tremendous discipline. You know what I mean? Especially to get to your 70s. Oh my God, how did you do that? Right?
Exactly.
And I'm a weaker person. I can imagine. I'm comfortable with that.
Well, I mean, I obviously run a cannabis company. I thought of you, obviously, to come on the show to talk about cannabis stuff as well. But before we go too far down that path.
Well, by the way, we've already started. I was in college when we started this little venture. I was quite the partier, social chairman for 3 years at Theta Chi at Tufts University. Very proud of that. I learned quite a bit. Let's just say how to tap a keg, among other things.
That is a college lesson for everybody.
Yes.
What about
rolling a joint was the other.
You went to you did WBZ and then went on to NECN.
Now you've missed 20 years, but that's okay.
Okay.
But this is why we're here. I get it. And I appreciate you allowing me to look back at my life because I do feel I've accomplished quite a bit.
It's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I'm old at this point. You know some things about me personally, like 5 major surgeries in 25 years, that are pretty scary in a lot of ways to a lot of people. And I had 2 body parts replaced last year in 24. I had my left shoulder and my right hip replaced.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why I'm happy. I'm smiling. I smile all the time. So after college, literally the next day after getting my diploma at Tufts University, I was at Boston University's Institute for Broadcast Sports. It was a 6-week graduate level course program run by a guy named David Claytell, who was longtime chairman of the broadcast journalism department at BU, and then went on to Columbia School of Journalism too. And it opened my eyes to the business of sports, as opposed to just following it and looking at the stats. It's content.
It's content.
It's athletic theater.
Yeah, because sports is one of those situations where it's just
touches everything.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of money involved nowadays.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, I had money when I was a kid because I had 2 great parents. My dad was very successful in office furniture. We had a company in Boston for years that was called M. Brown. We had Herman Miller in New England, the exclusive. So Grandpa Max Brown did a great job of building that from Tremont Street in Boston to Brookline Ave in Boston, right next to Fenway Park. 120 and 126 Brookline Ave, those 2 buildings. I happened to drive by them the other day. They're worth $48 million.
Yeah,
just the buildings now. Yeah. Okay. Now, I know what they sold it for in 1988 when my dad called me. He goes, so what's the deal? You want this or don't you? And I go, what are you talking about? Because we're going to liquidate. I just want to make sure that I can offer you the business if you'd like to. I said, I don't know any. Dad, I'm a sportscaster. I just came back from Rosenblatt Stadium. I did a statewide broadcast between Maine and Arizona in the College World Series. Mm-hmm. That was one of the most exciting sports events I've ever been at, let alone broadcast. Mm-hmm. I'm a sportscaster. Go liquidate. Have a wonderful retirement. You've given me the most incredible life, and they were supportive of my. Yeah. And
So you had that opportunity to take on those buildings, and so financial decisions are
I've never been good at that, Jason. Okay, let's just say I've never been good at that. I'm not good with money. I'm not good in business. I've now got 2 failed businesses. The first one was Young Broadcasters of America. You can certainly ask me about that if you'd like. But this one, Pro Cannabis Media, has been dissolved.
So that's a story in itself right there.
Yeah, the newsletter is we had our first newsletter that came out last month. It kind of announced it, a soft open. Now that it's been completely done, and let's just say that parent company is no longer with us. I'm now a team owner. We're part of a 4-people team on a new business venture. 2 people out of Arizona and 1 out of South Carolina. I got a free app out of the deal, and I've got a video director out of the deal. I've got a dear friend now who is writing a lot of the newsletters. She's got a creative thing. She's run companies before. She's handling all the stuff that you got to have when you have a business, which I hated.
Right.
Okay.
That's the part that you didn't like.
I didn't like.
You wanted to be like, what's your ideal situation then? Just to be in front of the camera and talking.
I would love for somebody to look at what I've done, see the value in what I bring to the table as a promoter. That is what the People Performance Indicator told me I was about 10 years ago, 7 years ago. It was right at the beginning of this. And he goes, so that form or that questionnaire that I filled out that day was what position should I be in for an employer to make them the most money? Mm-hmm. Promotion. And that's because I've got a mouth that likes to talk to people. Yeah. And, I'm sorry, that's what it is. It goes back to that.
So let's not bury the lead though, really quickly. So Pro Cannabis Media, it had started years ago now.
It was cannabis. It was called Cannabis Multimedia Network, CMN, when Cultivate had their first day in Leicester, Massachusetts. And I'll never forget, I was with a friend at the time who was helping me out, and the police stopped us and said, this is... I said, no, I'm with CMN.
I'm press.
Right. I'm media. I'm with CMN.
I love saying that. Everybody...
CMN. He thought I said CNN. So obviously, go ahead, park. And I literally parked right next to the tents. I mean, it was like, thank you very much,
So my first was the original one.
It was the one that we did 3 days of live streaming at NECANN in 2019. Wow. 54 interviews. We were live from 10 in the morning to 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And the fact that I did it with my only concussion is pretty amazing.
Oh, you had a concussion?
I had a concussion. You know what? And to this day, I still have a ringing in my ears from that accident. I had an accident about 10 days before NECANN in 2019. And my first podcast was done at NECANN in 2018 with a guy by the name of Stu Zakem.
I know Stu.
Of course you know Stu. No, what was bizarre, and this is something you don't know, and I'll tell you the quick story. Yeah. So the podcast, I was encouraged to go to that event. It's, you should start a podcast. What the heck's a podcast? And we're a podcast. We're not rolling. I mean, we're not on over the air. So I can, if I happen to drop a bomb. Yeah. Okay. I'm conscious of that. So the first, I walked down the aisle and I saw this sign that said MJBA, the voice of cannabis. And I went, hey, I want to be the voice of cannabis. Who's this? What is this all about? Right. And the guy behind the table said, well, you better go talk to him. So he pointed over to Stu. Yeah. And I didn't know. And I walked over and said, Stu, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jimmy Young. I used to be a sportscaster in this town. I've been urged to do a podcast. I'm learning about what that means. Would you be, can we talk? And he goes, Stu Zakem. And I go, are you any relation to Lenny? He goes, he was my big brother. I'm like, okay. So I get emotional, right? Okay. I said, Lenny, I worked for Lenny when I left sportscasting. In fact, he was one of the reasons why I left full-time sportscaster work, was to go work with your brother, because he was dying of bone cancer. And he was the closest thing to a human prophet I had met during my broadcast career. Yeah. And I don't regret that. Okay. That being said, but I told him, I said, Stu, Lenny put us together for a reason. We've been friends for 7 years. Yeah. And I talked to him a lot. I mean, he's a friend. He's a good friend. And he's a connector to all the people in New York that, as a Bostonian, I tolerate.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that. There's quite a few personalities. But you know who he introduced me to is Vladimir Batista, the happy monkey out of New York. And I introduced Vlad. This is one of my career highlights. So we're live on Green Rush, one of my shows that you were on. And we had lined up Tommy Chong at 5 o'clock. And I had Vlad from 4:30 to 5. And at the end of the interview, I said, hey, Vlad, have you ever met Tommy Chong? He goes, no, I've always wanted to, I really would like to party with him. And I was like, well, I can introduce you to him live if you'll hang on for 5 minutes. And he goes, yeah.
Yeah.
And he did, and I have. And so to this day, every time I see Vlad, what do I say? Who introduced you to Tommy Chong? Yeah. And by the way, one of the greats, Tommy Chong. You
had him on the show as well.
I've had Tommy Chong. I've had Cheech Marin. I did a one-on-one with Cheech Marin at a
that event. I remember
at the high lifestyle event.
Event.
And I like talking to people, Jason.
You do?
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
Really?
It's not my thing.
Well, and by the way,
I'm just curious, and so I ask a lot of questions.
And that's good. That's the first thing. And the most important thing as a talk show host is to be a good listener. Yeah. And the only time I listen is when I know there's a red light on us. And everybody who knows me knows this, but I've learned quite a bit. It is the most important skill any talk show host can have. No matter how much preparation you've done, how much due diligence you've done on your guest, I'll say something or someone will say something and you'll think of a question based on what they just said. Yeah. And those are the best questions to ask.
Right. Well, I have lots of questions.
I know you do. Go ahead. I'm gonna drink Goodfield.
Yeah. So have some Goodfields. That's mango.
Wait. Is there? This is my camera. Thank you.
Yep. That's your camera.
By the way, no tally lights. What am I supposed to do without tally lights?
I don't even know what a tally light is.
Okay.
This is a podcast. This is a broadcast.
I understand. No. But as a producer, your man should learn that when the red light is on, it means that camera is on, so that allows you as a host or a guest to know, I can look at that camera and go, hey, Goodfields, it's the best infused beverage on the market.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think there's like pod panels and all kinds of stuff and broadcast stuff. I'm not, like, broadcast, I know technology, right? Oh. You have the opposite problem.
Well, right, because I hate technology. Yeah. Well, that's good. I can help. I'm happy to help you out.
Yeah, help. So
we're back. By the way, the life story.
Yeah,
we haven't even graduated. We graduated Tufts. I'm at Institute of Broadcast Sports. I met the founders of ESPN there, the Rasmussens. I met a guy named Ernie Harwell. Ernie Harwell and Johnny Most came in one day, and it was one of the most incredible days because now anybody who knows sports might recognize those two. Certainly Johnny Most was the voice of the Celtics for 40. Had a gravelly voice, talk bears. No, everybody did Johnny Most imitation when we were growing up. But Ernie Harwell had Vin Scully-esque, smooth, silky tone. Oh, yeah. And the difference between the two was, oh my God, right? Enlightening.
What is that, like what makes a really good broadcaster? Their voice?
No, it's who's watching you and how many people like you. Because it's all about, all we're doing is creating numbers. All we're doing is creating how many downloads, how many times.
Right.
Reach and frequency. That is what media is a conduit for information.
Right.
The product of media are the people watching, listening, following, subscribing. That's what makes money.
Right, exactly.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, I feel so bad.
So
I talk with my hands way too much. My dad used to yell at me, will you sit on your hands, please? I'm like, okay. So
what makes money, obviously, is what's going to get people to continue to
correct.
Watch.
And by the way, it'll pay for your equipment. It'll pay for your $1 million set. It'll pay for your $100 set, whatever it is. Right. But that's how it works. And I hope you're going to ask me about social media because I have a tirade that I will go off on at some point.
Can we talk about that then? So social media is...
Talk about it. It's the biggest demon in our world.
Yeah. In cannabis or just in the world?
In the world.
Okay. go in your tirade. I'm just super curious what you think about social media.
I don't like censorship, first of all.
Censorship.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the way that they've treated the cannabis industry is disgusting to me. And the fact that now the consumer, anybody, can have their own show and put out their own information and their own voice and their own face, and there's no standards and practices. Nobody has to get a license like in my day where commercial television, you had to get a license, and the FCC protected the public airwaves from misinformation. Those days are over because once again our elected officials gave the keys to the asylum to the consumer.
So anybody could just start up and start talking about whatever they want.
And look what's going on now in our. We've never been more divided as a nation ever in my lifetime. I'm 60. I keep saying it. I'm 67. I keep saying it. Maybe I'll actually believe it sometime. I'm supposed to stop acting like a 19-year-old. Anyway,
but cannabis censorship is a thing that everybody struggles with, especially operators. Obviously, are struggling with it terribly because our Instagram page has gone down so many times at this point.
Okay, so my Instagram, Pro Cannabis Media, at Pro Cannabis Media, I don't put any time into it. I give it off to people to do whatever they want with it, people on my news team or whatever, and it's never been taken down.
Okay, why do you think that is?
Because I don't think anybody watches or follows us. Well, our numbers aren't that great. I mean, it's cut to the chase here. I'm okay with that. Okay? And by the way, I'm not putting any time into it. The only time I put into it is my video production. It's on YouTube.
Right. And you're doing that for everything anyways. You're doing that for YouTube and other reasons.
Correct. Right. I care about YouTube and LinkedIn a little bit. Now that I had one of those sign up for a LinkedIn advertising thing.
Yeah.
And I went through the whole thing and I said, so if I wanted to buy time, you guys would allow me? Oh, yeah. I said, I'm in the cannabis industry, right? And he goes, oh, that changes everything.
Yeah, totally.
And I said, guess what it also changes? I'll never spend a dime with your company on advertising, ever. Right. Ever. You're done. I'm done. I'll post stuff. I'll use it. I'll message me. I get hit up with salespeople all the time on LinkedIn, right? But guess what? No, sorry.
Yeah, LinkedIn is one of those places where they
think they're friendly to cannabis. Right. That's what bothers me.
Yeah. Everybody has this perception that they're super friendly, but
because they don't shut you down.
Well, people do get shut down though, and I've had some friends that have getting their pages taken away because they posted something about they posted maybe some buds or something like that. If then it gets
I don't allow. Let me rephrase that. I discourage on camera inhalation or use. I discourage it.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons, but I don't want to put my content out there in order for it to get taken down.
Yeah.
Do you know who Max Simon is from Green Flower?
Yep.
Okay. So
I haven't heard from him in a long time.
I saw him in Vegas. We got a big hug. I've known him for 7 years. I mean, it's, Max, you're the reason how I learned when I got my medical card in 2013 in Massachusetts, the first place I found was Green Flower. Right. I went, wow, this is really well produced. He's got all these doctors and nurses and people with experience. I'm learning and learning and learning because when you walk into a medical dispensary in 2013 and they want you to buy flower, you have absolutely no idea what fake flower was or is, right?
Right.
That's herb.
Right.
That's what I used to call it.
Yeah. Can I get one weed, please?
Yeah, really. It's just like, it's everybody has a grass pot. There's a million different things. If you want me to let me talk about the M word at some point. Not now. Okay. Let me talk about that at some point.
Okay.
Because as a teacher, I have interviewed people that have explained to me the origins of that word. And it disgusts me. So every time I hear it, even though I made an exception this past year or two, because I've never heard a president of the United States use the word, other than Tricky Dick, who used it. And by the way, Dick Nixon still is influencing my life, ruining my life. I never liked him when I was 12. I was anti-war, and it's still bothering me at 67. He's the Controlled Substances Act guy, and he put it together because he didn't want that weed thing, with those darkies and those hippies. Right. The fact, by the way, he was a convicted, he did get impeached and he did quit.
Right.
Let's just leave it at that. Because I don't want to get into politics because I'll piss off half the people.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not worried about it. So what about taking back a little bit, going back into this.
You got to hear how I got my first job.
Do I have to?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. All right, we'll go there, but I have some general questions about kind of what's happening in the future also.
By the way, Jason,
Yes.
I don't mean to take over your talk show or your podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to respect the host. That being said, I answered a want ad for a radio sales guy in Lynn, Massachusetts, which happens to be my dad's hometown. He went to Lynn English, and I figured, hey, that's cool. That's kind of a connection here. I'll do it. So that's where at age 22, I got hired as a account executive for WLYN, AM and FM, and went out and sold radio time and learned
ad space.
And went back to the Institute in Broadcast Sports, which taught me that the product of media is audience. Right? So I'm selling the audience of a radio station that had a 5,000 watt signal. Nobody outside the realm of the city could actually hear it.
Right.
But they had an FM side that turned into, it was 101.7. It's the old Phoenix station, WFNX.
Yes, that's right.
And there's a Phoenix connection to my life and my family that at some point you'll ask me about. But I'm going to tease that. There's so many elements to my story. By the way, I'm writing in the last chapter of my book. You know what the last chapter is going to be? How I made my first million because I haven't yet.
I like that.
Of course. Everybody likes it.
So, but you found that you're like on the business side of things, you have two failed businesses.
Now. We're back to now.
Yeah.
Oh, I like living in the past, but go ahead.
No, but let's go to the future just a little bit because Pro Cannabis Media, I've known it for such a long time, and I've been a fan of it. I watch a bunch of your shows.
Thank you.
And but so I mean, there's a number of different factors of why this happened, right? There's the censorship aspect, right? There's the maybe the business, running the business aspect. There's also the the friendliness of the community towards it or something like that.
Stigma. Call it the stigma.
There's stigma.
Yeah.
But also within the industry itself, it seems like you weren't necessarily getting the
support.
Wasn't reciprocated in some ways.
I did for about 18 months when we broke even. And I had a national sponsor. I had a couple of local sponsors. I was still doing news. I've been doing cannabis news since I had a setup similar to what you had in my office.
Right.
And so that being said, a friend of mine said, do what you do best. I go, I'm a talk show host. I'm a news producer. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. I don't really I do them all well.
Right.
Because I've done it.
That's what you do.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to pull it off and make any money because guess what? Money doesn't drive me.
Yeah.
Just doesn't. And as a business guy, that's not a good thing.
No, it's not, because what ends up happening is that you find yourself, doing all these things and maybe not getting the support that you need because you're not going out there seeking that money every single time. Like,
pardon me, I have a little tickle, so I'm going to drink some more Goodfields.
Go for it.
Which could put me out, but that's okay.
Do you find that you consume cannabis to calm down your brain? Because you talk a lot.
I meditate. And it's really important. Okay. It's the only time you can shut down your brain.
Yeah.
And try to do it at least once a day.
So meditation is how you shut down your brain?
Absolutely.
So you use cannabis then for like ailments then, or you just like it because it makes you feel good?
No. That's a very good question. Very probing question. I usually only do it at night to help me sleep and relax.
Yeah.
I find that when I live with chronic pain, it goes back to, the medical card. And I learned quite a bit from Max Simon Greenflower, but to finish that story, YouTube took him down the week that I was about to produce and post my first podcast. Wow. April 2018, right after the Cole memo, and everybody freaked out. They thought the feds were going to come. Anybody who does any business with cannabis is going to be shut down.
Right.
And they pulled 250,000 subscribers without any notice.
I'd never even heard that story before.
Well, that's because you didn't listen to the Max Simon interview from 2020, because I talked to him about it.
2020. In 2020, I think I was still wearing diapers.
Oh, God. Thanks. I really appreciate that. My God, now I feel really old. But, there's a lot of stuff in my head.
Right.
And when I get a microphone in front of me and I get somebody I like and care about,
we
have a conversation.
We talk forever.
We like to, by the way, the best interviews are conversations.
Yeah.
What's fascinating to me now is that a podcast is no longer just an audio file.
Okay.
It's a video file.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I was doing video, and then stripping the audio. Hang on a second. I was doing 2 pieces of content for every hour of production I did because I understood media.
And now everybody's kind of catching on to it.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah.
That's okay. You know what? I encourage content production.
Right. Well, I feel like the next generation of media, like the financial backing is important. And so that's why as an operator, it makes a lot of sense for us to do and put on these things, because with a little bit of extra cash flow, we can kind of support these
tools.
things. It's a tool for reach.
Create your own message, distribute your own message. That's a great marketing tool.
Yeah.
Okay. And especially now that you have access to free distribution.
Yeah, that's what it's free distribution.
Correct.
It takes very little to distribute now. And everything's already plugged in and automated. So you just hit the upload button once and it goes everywhere. So
I do it multiple times a week.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, I do.
You're very familiar with that.
Well, you know what? You remember Pro Cannabis Media?
Yes.
When we were live streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to lose my shirt. And that was because I couldn't sustain it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a sales team.
Right.
I didn't have anybody who wanted. I had a few people who tried to help me with sales, but it just, media sales is a challenge.
I can't stand media sales. I can't stand it. Well, because I ran an agency. I was one of the founders of an agency back in the day. And like selling anything like that is just, I mean, we also were on the other side of it too. We were buying a lot of media back in the day too, at my last company.
Do you mind if I put this here? Oh, wait, let me put it with the label. Sorry. I'm conscious of cameras.
Is just a nightmare. I can't.
You can't see it unless it's a billboard. Right. You can't touch it because you can't. But you can hear it. You can listen to it. It's all around us.
Right. It's everywhere.
Big Brother follows us. They don't even. Big Brother now knows exactly what we're thinking. Yep. And that's when we go to our phones and we go, hey, I was just thinking about that.
Exactly. Thinking about it. Right.
Thinking about it.
That just happened to me because we were in, my controller came up from Austin, Texas, in a specific town, which I can't pronounce. And I apologize, clerks, I can't pronounce it. New Braunfels or something like that, which is outside of Austin, between San Antonio and Austin.
Okay.
And we were talking and I was driving her into Nican. And then literally on my way home from Nican, I look and in my Instagram feed was something about New Braunfels, this. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Look, you figured this out.
No, I know, because I think it actually, now people claim that you can listen, they're listening to our conversation.
100%.
Right. But however, as a technologist, I know that you can also correlate 2 different data points of geo-targeting as well, knowing that this phone was traveling with this phone and this person just came in from New Braunfels. And so it's actually not necessarily the audio they listen to, but they know the relationship where I just spent hours and hours with this person. So maybe New Braunfels content is actually irrelevant to me.
How about the fact that you now can create artificial intelligence images, sounds, and visuals of famous people, and it looks exactly and sounds exactly like them.
And right now, there's no consequences for doing that either.
Excuse me. Let's go back to my comment about Congress giving the tools to the asylum to the consumer.
Right.
Okay? There's no standards and practices.
Yeah.
So what do you think human beings with our behavior is going to be doing? We're always looking to cut corners.
Take an edge.
Create I bet I could do this. I bet I could do this. I got to make a bill. Whatever drives us. A lot of it is false thoughts about money, but it is dangerous. And as big as our government has become, they have lost touch with the average citizen. And even though we know somebody's out there trying to dismantle it and make it shrink, and I support the theory, I don't support the practice, I support the idea.
A smaller government.
Right, about a smaller government. I understand. I believe in a true democracy, something we don't have in America. We have a republic, and we have too much power amongst electoral. The electoral college is it doesn't make any sense now in the 21st century. But again, everybody who knows me or knows where I'm from Massachusetts. Call me a left-wing radical. Call me whatever you want, but don't blame me. And that's the problem. Labels and blame.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. That's not progress. That's not humanity. I find good in all people, Jason, and I build my relationship around that.
Yeah,
it's worked pretty well for me. People like me. My brothers like. They don't respect. They don't respect because I don't make any money. I don't care. That doesn't drive me.
Right. Do you think that's lost in this generation where they're like, everybody's seeking money? I find that...
Yes. The answer to that. But they feel entitled that they should be making money. They feel entitled that they should, I had my college degree, where's my $100,000 job? No, you have to work. You know, the work ethic has disappeared in a generation too. I never stopped working, Jason, because I've never worked a day in my life. I always do something I enjoy doing, editing video, putting video together.
Talking financially, that doesn't necessarily always make the most sense.
And I've always managed to survive. Maybe that's why I'm 0 for 3 in female relationships. I don't know.
Yeah, because you've had your body's getting busted, your relationships are busted.
Blame it on whatever you'd like to blame it on. Personally, I've had a grateful life.
Yeah.
I've done things that people would die, especially sports fans, would have died to have done, and get paid to go to the 86 World Series, get paid to go to the 86 Super Bowl with the first Patriots.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I got to do all those things. I called an end to the Boston Marathon one time. I mean, I have had experiences that I never thought in a million years I'd have.
86 Super Bowl. 86, the Patriots run at 86. I remember this as a kid.
Longest freaking work week of my life.
It was bury the bears, squish the fish.
That's right. That was our. If you ever saw my one story that aired on Miami television and ESPN, is I did a story on the security at the Super Bowl, and they weren't allowing the media into practices because they were afraid. And sure enough, we put a camera up. Well, it's a long story, but Tulane University is where I ended up staying over that week, that ridiculously long week of my life. Now, granted, I was 28, 29. And we used that phrase as the secret word to get into the dorm room, that we opened up the blinds and overlooked the Patriots practice. And it was just like 15 seconds. It was just the whole point was, look at the security here at the Super Bowl. We couldn't go to the practice because it wasn't allowed. So we took it upon ourselves to shoot some video of the practice. And you know which team we shot? The Patriots.
Right.
And the wild thing is, Raymond Berry, the coach, mentioned that there were cameras on the roof of the dorm looking at his practice.
He did.
He did in his press conference, his last press conference. And I didn't want to stand up because, but I only showed 15 seconds. Relax. Exactly. I'm a Patriots fan. Go Pats, bury the Bears, all that. No.
So was that one of the more memorable times of broadcast that you had? Like, what is the most memorable time? If you could point like one of your
Well, I got to tell you.
When you were broadcasting specifically.
Oh, in sports?
Yeah, in sports.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just threw out one. Calling the end of the Boston Marathon.
What year was that? What number?
It was in the 90s. Can you give me a decade, please? Because, narrowing it down. It was Cosmas and Deddy's third marathon.
Yeah.
And I remember what I said, move over Clarence DeMar, make room Billy Rogers, here comes Cosmas and Deddy. Because I grew up
to have that history.
Well, I grew up on the course. I grew up in Newton. We used to ride our bikes down to the Newton Wellesley Hospital on the corner of Beacon and Washington Street and watch him go by. I met Jesse Owens on that course in the 60s.
Nice.
Didn't even know who the hell he was. Go ask your parents. I'm like, okay,
exactly.
Who is Jesse Owens? And then they're like, well, let us tell you, which was great. But again, that meant a lot. My hometown, the live shot that I did with Hank Aaron at Fenway Park. Would you like to see the picture? Because I still have it. And the funny thing is, the guy who took that picture of me and Hank Aaron at the 86 World Series was Mike Adams, who I worked with for 15 years at NECN, who still is, I consider him a friend. He lives in Hopedale, and he's still one of the funniest humans on earth. And he took not just that one picture of me, he has a series of 8 from different angles of me doing it. And that's a cherished memory.
Heck, Aaron.
Interviewing Pelé as a soccer guy was a great moment.
Wow.
Okay. And
I for NECN or?
All with NECN. Yeah, it was the 90s. Look, I was a sports guy in the 90s in Boston. That was my career goal, was to get back to Boston to prove that I could be a sportscaster in my hometown. And I did it, and I accomplished it in my 30s.
Yep.
And I was burnt out in my 40s.
So that's when you moved on.
I moved on. I moved away a little bit because I just didn't like scores and highlights. I have more abilities in my brain. I love talking about the issues. Sports sociology. Jesse Jackson was on a show that I hosted on racism in Boston sports in 1993. And it was tremendous. It was a tremendous coup for NECN at the time to actually get somebody from Washington named Jesse Jackson to come on. And that was a great show. I still have the Racism in Boston Sports show on a VHS, and I think I actually transferred it over. I spent like $400 or $500, to put it onto a digital file.
So
it's tough. There's a couple others.
A lot of.
Well, do you know who Matt Barr was? Do you remember Matt Barr, the kicker for the Patriots?
Yes, I do, actually.
Okay, all right. So his dad, Walter Barr, played on the 1954 U.S. national team that lost to England 10-0. But his kids, Matt and Chris, both were kickers in the NFL. Matt eventually ended up in the Patriots. And being a soccer guy, I've always been able to kick a football.
Yeah.
And as a 19-year-old, I did a 45-yard field goal with my left foot and then turned it over to my right foot and did a 45-yard field goal. When I was 19, I make that very clear to people.
Yeah,
because at age 62, I did a 35-yard field goal for a steak dinner for some friends that didn't think I could.
Hey, that's amazing.
Especially with my body and what I went through. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. But
so, Wissigan, really quickly on this one, because my son and I go back and forth on this one.
Yeah.
The last 10 yards of the end zone count.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
So I've kicked a 35-year-old.
Where'd you kick that? That's so nasty. Why would you kick a 35-year-old when he's down?
A 35-yard field goal.
Did you play soccer as a kid?
No, I was in football, but I did. My dad encouraged me to kick.
Yeah,
and so I got pretty good at kicking, but I never really got the tryout on the team because we already had a kicker.
It's like riding a bicycle.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It was fun. But my son played soccer growing up, and then he joined football in 8th grade, now freshman year. And he started doing football. I'm like, you should try kicking because you've got he has a stronger leg than I do. And he was hitting 30-yarders. 40-yarders then, because he was going even further than me.
Yeah, 100%.
He's a freshman.
That's nice. And so Matt Barr and I spent an afternoon at the old Foxborough Stadium kicking field goals in the December in the 90s.
Yeah.
The reason why I wanted to do it was he had just kicked a football. He had just made a field goal, and he talked about it being like kicking a piece of wood because it was frozen. And I said, gee, I wonder what that feels like. Let's do a feature on that. And I did. And I went down, and we got out in the field, and we kicked field goals. And the best part of that feature, not just the interview and everything, but was the fact that Matt Barr gave me kind of a ribbing a little bit when he saw me jogging after a ball or something, stray ball. And it was funny. And he still remembers me, which is nice because I made a 35-yard field goal after Matt Barr set me up. Okay, Jimmy, this is it. The Super Bowl's on the line. The crowd's screaming. You can win the Super Bowl with one kick.
Oh, God. I
kicked the ball, and I hit the upright. Now, hitting the upright is a lot more difficult than putting it through the two of them, okay? Right. Not that and then I came back and did it. So, but it's just kind of
set you up like that.
But that made the whole piece, made the feature. That was on NECN. And by the way, one of the things I've got to do is contact the current NECN, NBC 10, NBC Universal, and I want to get access to the archives.
Yeah,
because I want the Pelé. I have the Ted Williams interview I did from 1986 in Maine. I can show you 5 seconds of it on my phone. I mean, there's certain things that I've accomplished, like I said, in my life that are just like
very obvious.
And everything. If you're a sports fan, but you know what, Jason, the cannabis world are not sports fans. There are sports fans who smoke cannabis or use cannabis.
Right.
There are sports athletes who are using cannabis as a business venture and see the medicinal benefits of it, too. Let's cut to the chase. Right. They do. But I make sports analogies all the time in cannabis, and some of them go right over people. They have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm like, all right, let me rephrase that. So I get it, and I appreciate the fact that you've allowed me to pontificate about what was really,
quite a career.
Big part of my life. I mean, exactly. and just
everybody should make the transition to cannabis then.
I go back to one of my friends, do what you do best. So what do I do best? Well, I talk to people. I interview them. I could do news. I can write broadcast journalism. I could teach. I can educate. So I tried a couple of things.
One is you were a consumer for a while, obviously.
14 on.
Right. So,
and then I stopped for 10 years when I turned 32 and my son was born.
Okay.
Straight, by the way. And that's when I got my job in Boston. That's when I had my show at NECN. Yeah. That's when I won my Emmy. You know what I mean? So it's like, ooh, duh. But that didn't end well, let's just say.
Yeah.
And
Right.
but she's still the mother of my child. She too is ill, and I can tell you this. You know, I'm ill physically. She's ill mentally. That being said, our son has turned out to be a great young man. He's 34. He owns a house. He's married. He's got a career. Is a licensed electrician.
That's amazing.
And he's an automotive. He's an auto nut because his dad used to take him to the auto show at age 5.
That's great.
And autos have always been, and now he's a technician. He's also a technician. He went to Porter and Chester, which is an auto, and graduated from that. And you know what? To this day, he's probably got 6 cars on his lot. That's how he made his friends in North Carolina. He's got a show car that he goes to the Audi, meets or whatever they call them. I'm thrilled. We're both very proud. Very proud.
That's amazing.
I mean, like I said, so for you parents out there, okay, they're going to turn out to be okay.
Yeah.
As long as you give them the right parameters and boundaries, and explain consequences to your actions.
And do you find, so going back to that last reference I made about the younger generation coming up and working and stuff like that, then do you find that, so you think it's kind of that lost, like time flies. Do you think there's anybody out there who's looking for that like 10-year, 20-year career with one company anymore?
No, I don't actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that exist, or why? Like,
well, although my son he works for Griffin Electric, which is one of the largest private electrical contractors in the world. Mm-hmm. And he's working himself up through the ranks. He's right below the foreman rank, which just gets him a raise as far as I know.
Right.
But his heart, the stories I tell about my son I'm so proud, but I can't get into that because I'll get all choked up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm just so proud of the kid. But and I know no idea where we were with my life story, but you're really getting to a lot of the stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was just more curious about the, so actually we don't have to go too far down that path, but what about, so Pro Cannabis Media being done,
It's not done.
Okay. It's
a new
evolving?
chapter. It's 2.0.
Okay.
So we're WPCM TV. We have an app that's PCM Space TV, available at the App Store and Google Play, that you can get on demand the documentation of the last 4 years of the fight to end cannabis prohibition on that app. Because all the best shows of the last 4 or 5 years, every show that I have posted on that app had over 10,000 views on YouTube. Some as many as 46,000.
Yeah.
So, and I think 68,000 was the most that Kurt Dalton and I ever delivered. We got an interview with a professor at the University of Calgary, Alberto Kovalchuk is his last name, because there's an athlete, sports guy named Kovalchuk, so I remember his name. And it was COVID. He had done a 3D modeling of the COVID virus and saw that CBD had an impact on the COVID virus.
Right.
Now, it was 3D modeling. It wasn't, a controlled, how the medical studies are. My God, Big Pharma, by the way, Big Brother and Big Pharma, I think are the same people. Let's just leave it at that.
You're going to get me booted.
Oh, my gosh. Right? So it's like, and now it allows, I completely lost my train of thought because I got into Big Brother again. What story was I sharing? See,
I don't remember.
This is what happens when you smoke weed. And by the way, I haven't, but I have had good feels. Hey, infused seltzer. You know what's amazing, Jason?
What's up?
I got free THC infused beverages delivered to my apartment in Clinton.
Yeah.
By the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's no interstate commerce. You understand what I'm saying?
I 100%.
Oh my God, this country is so screwed up. Nobody understands the industry that's in any power to make a decision about the industry.
Right. So, I mean, we definitely have a split kind of split isn't even the right word. There's, not bipolar, but there's definitely a lot of different tracks you can go down, and some people are going down different tracks and being very successful. Other people are going and not being so successful
in the industry,
or ancillary or otherwise. Because would you consider people who are going in hemp beverages in the industry compared to what we've gone through in Massachusetts?
What do I consider about that?
Yeah,
I think both. First of all, it's the same freaking plant.
Yeah.
Okay. you need one regulatory body for the same plant. You know, you didn't need 2 licenses. You didn't need 2 sets of rules, but you did because you were money hungry for the taxes.
Right.
Now you've got $2 billion industries with the same plant.
Same plant.
Okay. And I, like everybody, okay, go back to that because I have friends on both sides of the plant. And now the biggest players in the industry, what are they doing, Jason? They're getting into the legal side.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's new launches. I think Pure Leaf launched their drink.
Right.
True Leaf launched their drink.
Correct.
Lana has a drink now.
Yep.
Here I am, years and years in the drink space.
Which is why I have mixed reactions. I'd rather have you be successful than conglomerates be successful.
Well, that is our hemp product, technically.
There you go.
So we do actually have a
wait.
product.
It's good feels and it's legal. Right?
Across state lines.
And to go across state lines, which again is a big fallacy that there's no interstate commerce.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So look.
But is that a new story that you're covering? Like, what are you covering right now that's like the top trend? Like, you're just, because I heard about this whole Texas hemp thing.
That was my lead.
Yeah.
And I had Jerry Joyner from Weed and Whiskey TV, one of our partners on Citizen Green TV, which is our channel that we piggyback on Roku and Apple and Fire Stick. Just throw it in there. I mean, I'm distributed. When we go live, we're on 7 different platforms at the same time, including our app. I know what technology can do.
Right.
And I make sure I maximize it at as zero a cost as possible.
Yes, please.
And that's how we've been able to get 1.3 million views of our work over 3 years on our YouTube channel alone. I only quote the analytics from YouTube because I don't put any stock in Facebook. I hate Facebook. You know, I hate it when I get messages through Facebook, which means I have to go on Facebook to get them.
To respond to them.
Right. And I'm sorry. You know, I know the people, some of the people that do it, and I'm like, look, it's just not me.
Yeah.
You know?
What's this new, like, what are the trending stories right now that you're covering?
So mostly in individual states.
Okay.
You know, because I have 20 correspondents across the country. The news show that I'm producing is Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Elena Pinto, a former Channel 7 morning anchor. And let me tell you, I am so grateful to have her in my life for 30 minutes a week. It is, and we do everything on Zoom. And she's network quality. I was introduced to her by a woman that I had actually paid to write the news for Weed Talk News, which was the show I was doing for a long time with like 5 or 6 correspondents. Deborah Borchardt was one from the Green Market Report and a few others. But it was, now it's really state by state. And
so what's a new one? That's
Pennsylvania is going to be the 25th legal state. There's no doubt in my mind. You've got the governor. You've got a vibrant medical program. It's all set up. You just still have that stigma-driven thoughts of some people. I don't even want to put political parties on them. Okay, I just don't. I hate both the parties. I hate all By the way, over 750 interviews.
Yeah.
Not one elected official. Sorry. Because I know whatever you say, Mr. Elected Official, you're only saying because you're on my show and you're doing it to get yourself elected.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, I'm sorry, you're not representing your people. I will say this about Markey and Warren. They're both pro-cannabis, and I like them both.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if they weren't, boy, would they have been. They would know who I am.
Right.
I don't know if they do, but they would know who I am if they were.
Do you ever show up at the state capitol and like?
Nope.
You try to stay away from all that stuff?
Oh my God. I just don't like politicians, Jason. Never have.
Yeah.
Why do you think you go to a game and a politician shows up and they boo the politician? Right?
Yeah.
Because why is he or she here?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
They all know why they're there.
Right.
Yeah.
Come on.
To show their faces.
So, and again, tough job, dedicated to the public, similar to how I felt at age 42, that I did not feel fulfilled as a human, that I had a bit more things to offer society and people than just scores and highlights and insight on sports.
Right.
And this particular industry touches so many bases that I'm passionate about. The injustice being the first. Don't treat people, we are one family of humanity. Yeah. If we can't get over that, if we continue to point fingers and label people and profile and judge, that is the worst thing that can happen, and now it's happening, social media is reinforcing all of that bitter feelings, and it allows everyone to dig their heels in. This is how I believe, and I heard a podcast about it.
Right.
Oh, this is what I believe because I read an article about it.
Because, again, there's no standards and practices either,
That's right. That's right.
So people say the same thing over and over again. Everybody's like, oh, that must be true because everybody's saying it. And then the algorithm feeds them back that same information over and over again.
That's right.
It is actually interesting. As a fan of algorithms, I love algorithms. I'm a computer science nerd. So
I'm out of here.
algorithms are a beautiful thing. And it's funny how
But you don't like Big Brother.
Well, no, I don't like any authoritative.
Okay, thanks.
I've always been anti-authoritative.
Okay. All right.
So, but I do feel like the algorithms, it's just funny how that word is kind of in the public domain. Everybody's talking about algorithms. But as a computer scientist, we study algorithms from an early age. And
I would know that because I'm not a computer scientist.
Right. But it's something that's you kind of part of computer science. And so algorithms,
I have to learn it.
Can be a very beautiful thing.
Yep.
And I think the self-fulfilling or self-feeding algorithms are quite interesting because it definitely leads you down these interesting tracks of like, oh, once you saw one video of, this person, fell off their bike, all of a sudden next 5 videos are like people getting in accidents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, however, I have noticed, and I observe these things constantly, especially when I'm thinking more about YouTube. I'm thinking about how do I escape this kind of portal, right? How can I jump ship from this vertical of all these similar videos into a whole new world? And I actually think about this a lot. And what I really think about is, there are shared mental kind of images, right? Or how do you say mental images? There are shared experiences. And so therefore, when you're going onto YouTube, my YouTube feed is totally different than your YouTube feed.
Of course.
Right? It's totally different, right? But how do I cross into those worlds? Because so I actually just recently did something on my YouTube to mess with the algorithm a little bit. I study these things. And when I did this, it triggered something in YouTube that now I'm getting all of these videos that are like 5 million views, 10 million views, because I think I confused the algorithm so much.
Wow.
That it's re-showing me stuff that's super popular because it doesn't know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you like to be a consultant for WPCM TV?
So what ended up happening though was now that I'm seeing these videos and I'm thinking to myself, because there's a whole world behind this of people who are generating so much revenue that they're able to support themselves.
I wouldn't know about
You wouldn't know about that part of it. But I promise you these people exist.
Okay.
And they're getting sponsorships and all this other stuff. But the point is, there are many people out there that are getting 50,000, 100,000 views on their videos, or maybe have like 50 or 100,000 kind of followers. There's like millions of these people out there, but you only get such a small subset. And just going back full circle into the future of kind of the youth right now, and even in your 20s and stuff like that, because I'm in my 40s now. So
whoa, I'm not your 40s now. By the way, it's all been downhill for me since 42, pal.
Good to know. That's assurance. So, but I do find that the more I mess with these algorithms and the more I play around with Instagram feeds and stuff like that, and try to like really mess with the algorithms and get exposed to new things that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're also probably thinking about this too, right? Because I think that goes into almost, I don't want to go into like justice and stuff like that, but it's like you kind of have to see different perspectives in the world. You can't just always be shown the same one over and over again. So I think some of the smarter companies, bigger companies have thought that that might be an issue in the future. And so they want to expose people to other things. But as I'm going down into deeper, darker kind of like spots in the internet that are like less viewed, I'm finding art. I'm finding creativity. I'm finding artists and bands, singers, artists of sculptors, painters, things like that, or people also creating a lot of digital art that is really inspiring, actually. And I'm finding that, whether you believe in something like UBI, like Universal Basic Income, where everybody gets, $40,000, $50,000 a year as a default, and then, you're free to kind of create at that point. It's kind of in a weird space in economics, in a sense, because there's that separation that continues to happen where people are like, I can't make any money.
Supply and demand of humanity.
And so right now, I look at the youth and I think to myself, there are really creative people out there. There are brilliant artists out there that are inspiring me now. That I'm like, oh, I can now look back as, because I believe I'm a creator. I've always been a creator.
Familiar with that concept.
Yeah, and like looking back and be like, wow, all these beautiful things are happening that I have never heard of before, and now I'm kind of being exposed to it. So I believe in, and I don't want to go into like the matrix or whatever, and like breaking out of the matrix, but it is kind of like that with algorithms, where if you can break out of the algorithm, you're able to find these kind of like hidden pockets that are really inspiring.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is it algorithm or algorithm?
It depends, because it's Arabic, right?
I don't know. I don't know anything about algorithms. I know I don't like them.
I say algorithm. Algorithm. It's like algebra.
Yeah, algebra. Well, it's algebra would be algorithm,
Right.
not algorithm. Now you understand. I teach oral communication, speech. How to say as much as possible in as few words as possible, which people always say to me.
Wait a second.
You don't practice that.
Don't practice what you teach.
You don't practice. No, I said do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
And I say a lot.
Right.
Now, there's one thing we haven't brought up, and I know we're up against it because I'm very conscious of the time too, is the M word. The word marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I learned this by talking to a logistics guy. He was a professor at one of the Colorado universities back in 2020. I'm still looking for the damn interview. That shows you how ADHD my YouTube channel is. Okay. And he explained the origins of the word. And it clicked with me because I'm so conscious of the depth of racism in this country and how difficult it is to move beyond it. It just is very, very difficult. Once it is in the system, how do you move on to it? Now, we have a very politically incorrect situation going on in the White House right now. Okay, let's just say that. All right. And I'm actually putting my faith in the Republican Party that they're going to do the right thing. And I learned something this weekend about Corvain Cooper from 40 Tons. Do you know his story?
No, I don't really know.
So you've got to watch the interview that I do in the news this week because...
Yeah. Well, I'm familiar with 40 Tons. I'm familiar with Anthony and L'Oreal.
Right.
So I don't know Corvain that well.
Well, Corvain was Anthony's best friend in high school. Mm-hmm. And they both got busted.
Right.
But it was Corvain who went down for 40 tons of marijuana. Oh, I used the M word.
40 tons?
That's how they came up with the name.
Oh, God. 40
okay.
tons?
And got a life sentence.
Yeah.
And President Trump, in the last weekend of his first term, commuted the sentence.
Right.
Based on L'Oreal's work and a few other people that came along for the ride. They all were very awesome. Yeah. But I mean, that story is being turned into, a nice documentary or whatever they want to do.
Definitely.
But that gives me chills when I even say it. But now I'm going to go back to the M word that I just used, which I rarely do unless I attach it to medical. Mm-hmm. So the origins of that word are basically like calling black people Negroes. Negro is a slang term for the N word, which is such a horrible word. I don't ever use it. I don't think I've ever said it. Okay. And being a Jewish person, I'm very sensitive to prejudice. Mm-hmm. Profiling. This is one of the reasons why I hate labels. That's why I love black people. It's why I love brown people. It's why I love Asian people. I love everybody because there's good in all humans. You just have to look for it. Sometimes you have to look really hard. Let's just leave it at that. One person in particular. Anyway, you have to look really hard for it. And I give him credit. You're hearing me say this in a digital recorded. I give him credit for doing the right thing by this young man. And giving him an opportunity to have a life. They built a great business. They've got a brand. She's still a mother of, right. It's amazing. Yeah. And the whole point of this movement was to give people who are most impacted by the failed war on drugs an opportunity. They took the opportunity thanks to a presidential pardon, clemency, let them out of jail free card, and have turned it into a vibrant business. And they're a great example of what should be happening.
Right. Absolutely.
But the people that are making the rules are making it as difficult as possible for this industry to survive.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, so do you, that have lost everything.
Yes.
Hey, I've lost everything too. But guess what? I still believe in the industry and I still believe in the cause. And I still believe that I don't believe in retirement either. So I constantly want to continue to help these people out. So using the M word, we got rid of the word Negro. Except when we refer to the Negro baseball leagues.
From history, yes.
Correct. And we should learn from history. And I'm the mouth that is trying to make this change. I want people to call it what it is. Dr. Uma Dhanabalan taught me this in 2019, probably, because she was one of the first interviews I did. And she goes, it's a plant. The plant's name is cannabis sativa. And she taught me that. And it stuck with me now 7 years later. Because she's right.
Right.
Call it the exit drug. I think that's her book. Give her a little plug. But it's, I'm a changed man because I'm in this industry. First time in my life I've had a cause to champion. And it pulls together all the elements of my soul and my personality to keep this thing going. And the most important thing is download our app. Will you please? PCM Space TV. You can even go to Pro Cannabis Media too. That's our website. There's plenty of stuff there too. But again, I don't have any budget. I just do the job. 14 hours every Sunday to put together a news show with 20 correspondents. And the wonderful Elena Pinto as my anchor. We're blessed to have her for 3 years, Jason. She hasn't asked for a dime.
I know.
I keep offering, can I take you out to dinner? Can I take you and Hector? Nope. By the way, she's in Hawaii with her mom right now for 10 days. She doesn't struggle. She's an influencer, okay? And do you know her story, Elena's story, that she got fired at Channel 7?
I didn't know that.
So she got fired at Channel 7 for appearing in an Adam Sandler movie as an unidentified extra without asking permission from her boss.
Wow.
And it made the Globe. And that's how her Q factor, recognizability, is so strong. And Brian and Angela from Coast Cannabis. I love the fact that we know these. We've known these people for 7 years, right? They were the first ones who said, you got Elena Pinto doing news for you. And I go, yeah, dude, how did you do that? I said, I asked her. I don't know.
You just asked, right?
No, and I had a producer, Tori Chamberlain at Channel 7, who introduced me to Elena after she got fired. And I said, hey, guess what? Can you read off a teleprompter? Of course. She set up a little studio with a green screen in her apartment on Comm Ave, and I get her for 30 minutes, and she gives me my deadline every weekend.
Oh, wow. Is that something that you, like, when you were, would you, like, what would be the tips you would encourage somebody to do if they were going to start a show for themselves?
Do it.
Just go.
Do it. Because you're never going to be as bad as the first time you're on camera.
Yeah.
You're never going to like what you sound like the first time you hear your sound.
Really not.
These are human. This is humans doing this.
Right.
You've got to get over yourself.
Humans are messy.
Humans are messy. And then when you start getting 100 views, 1,000 views, 1,000,000 views, don't change. Do the same show whether you have one person watching or listening, as you would if there were 10 million.
Yeah. I like that.
That's good. And don't use the M word anymore. If I live so long, which I never know, if that is my passion, that's what I'm going to move towards. Dr. Eric Ruby, a retired pediatrician in Massachusetts, got the M word taken out of the Massachusetts medical Bible or whatever the heck they do, right? And now it's cannabis because that's what it's called.
Right.
And
plant.
And and I use the word Negro because we don't use the word Negro anymore.
Right.
It was a slang term for a horrible word.
Right.
So,
and marijuana is similar to that M word.
100%. 100%.
And so, actually, since we're close to wrapping, is there?
No, I want to talk for the whole day. Have you ever done a 24-hour podcast?
I haven't, but I bet you have.
I know I haven't, but I'd love to try. As long as there was food and drink along the way. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But is there, like, what do you, besides that, or anything else happening right now?
Well, I mean, I represent Yellow Labs. Hey, just in time to show this is called Yellow Labs.
Okay.
This is a measured microdose delivery system of 2.5 milligrams, the entry-level dose of THC. That's as simple as
the spray
under your tongue.
Look at that.
Fast-acting, long-lasting, discreet. This is the thing. 2.5 milligrams. I need 10. I need 15. I need 20. Great. I have a guy now, that bought it at COSA, which is the first dispensary that bought this from me. I've got to mention, it's also manufactured by a licensed manufacturer, ACS, Alternative Compassion Services. Stephen Werther's childhood friend. We used to imbibe on the way to the bus. Sometimes we got on the bus. Sometimes we didn't. But he's in the industry and he's passionate about it as a medical plant, as I am. And by the way, I have done wake and baking. I have been so freaking high that I can't move. Trust me, I've been there, done that, and lived to tell the story, which is my life philosophy. Because if you live to tell the story, and the story about this is, we sold one to a guy. The next week, he comes back to the same pop-up at Coast. We just opened it up there. Yeah. And I said, how did you like it? He goes, like it? I did the whole thing. I go, what? He goes, yeah. I said, you took 125 milligrams. He goes, yeah, I have a high tolerance. I said, yeah, I guess so. And they said, and then I went out and plowed snow for 7 hours.
Exactly.
And I went, and he said, and I had a blast. And I go, holy mackerel. What a great anecdotal story.
Yeah, I love those stories like that.
I do too, because it impacts everybody differently. Everybody thinks, oh, if I take 2.5 milligrams, am I going to be like a couch lock or going to be stoned? And I'm like, no, you may not even feel it. In fact, if you've never done it before, you're not going to feel it because it takes time to interact with this endocannabinoid system that's in all of us. And every mammal has one, and it's different. But God put it on this earth to cure and help diseases.
Yeah.
And I don't want to wish this on any of our elected officials, but heaven forbid one of their grandchildren or their children come down with a disease, make it Crohn's, make it cancer, make it autism, make it probably missing a few, chronic pain. I live with chronic pain, but I don't use it all the time because I recognize the power of the brain. I don't notice my pain, my chronic pain, if my mind is busy and I'm working and I'm talking and I'm typing and I'm doing my thing. And then when it finally,
when you're end of the day, you're like,
I turn on the Celtics and I'm like, okay, I need a little edge here.
Right.
And,
so that's your go-to product right now. That's what you love.
I've cut back on my smoking by 90%.
Yeah.
I don't want to smoke anymore. In fact, I've been told not to.
Right.
Catch my drift. So this is an awesome product, and we're bringing it into the marketplace.
That's amazing.
And what's happening now, this is by far, this will get the most Massachusetts eyeballs because 1.3 million views of my work, right? You'd think Massachusetts would be one of the biggest, strongest, right? No, I've always flown under the radar. California and Texas, Michigan, Florida, New York, top 5. Massachusetts, 20th.
Really?
20th.
Of all the states that subscribe.
Yeah, we're a B2B. We're not a consumer. We don't reach consumers. Well, some consumers, but the point is it's 35 to 64 males. Why? Because Elaine is gorgeous and she's talented. Right. And they want to, and if you're in the business and you have millions invested in it, you want to learn what's going on, not just in your backyard, but what's going on in DC and what's going on in different states. What are they doing that's different than the state that I'm in or you're in or whatever? Right. That's what makes this work. And I'm going to tell you, I'm doing it until I can't do it anymore. Right. And not just this, but also producing content.
Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
No, you know what? You've been so kind. You've been so kind to let me talk for as long as I have, and I appreciate that. I really do. You know what I used to say when I interview people and you'd ask one question, they go off for 10 minutes. They make your job so much easier. They really do, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you're telling interesting stories, and so that's why I think it's easy to kind of just sit and listen.
And Jason, you haven't even heard how I got high with Jerry Seinfeld's story, and I'm going to tease that for you guys. So you'll have me back.
Okay.
But it's a great freaking... And Larry Miller, if anybody knows who Larry Miller is, he's an actor and a comedian. Both were on Carson in the 80s. I now watch Johnny Carson TV on Roku. I mean, like every night.
Yeah.
And one night I tuned it in. Walter freaking Cronkite's being interviewed. 1968. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah.
And the thing I always... Johnny Carson... was I mimicked his style.
Okay.
Because if you're self-deprecating and you can laugh at yourself, you're going to be funny.
Right.
And that's kind of how I am. I don't mind making fun of myself. I make tons of mistakes. You know what they say? You're supposed to learn from your mistakes. Yeah. I should have a freaking PhD by now. Okay. But I haven't because I live every day as if it's my last.
All right.
And thank you for making my day. And thank you, Goodfields, for just being you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Jimmy.